Welcome, everybody, to our Monday night empowerment session where we are going to be talking about stress, of which we know nobody ever deals with. But more importantly, we're going to talk about adaptogens and how they do make such a major difference and have impacted a lot of lives for the better and challenging the ongoing stress that is part of our everyday lives. And for those of you who are new to this series or are unaware, you can get text reminders about 15 minutes before we start our session. Text the word LEARN to 1-866-256-1970. And you will get a text alert about 15 minutes before we jump in. So we're going to get off and get started here and hear from Miss Corinne Lott.
Good morning. I am Corinne Lott. I am from Idaho. And I just wanted to take just a few minutes this morning and share a little bit about what the Vital and Adaptable have done for me. I have been using the Vital for a lot of years. And when I first came into Soul and started using adaptogens, I was having a lot of health issues. I struggled with chronic shingles, and I didn't even know chronic shingles was an issue. I just would have shingles all the time. I would have flare-ups about every other week in different areas in the body. They were all the same ones. It rotated between 3 different spots. And when I started using the Vital, they started getting better. Then when I actually added the Adaptable, they almost became non-existent. It really showed me that using those adaptogen herbs, it really went in and started utilizing and benefiting me from the inside out. So that was where I started going with the Vital and the Adaptable and the many wonderful health benefits. You know, I could just list them, with energy, balancing my mood, being a better mom. I always joke that anybody that has a teenager, was a teenager, or knows a teenager needs Adaptable. So that's one of the things that I always say about Adaptable, because it really helps you adapt to situations without freaking out. And that is one thing that I've really noticed with that as well. I have also put a lot of value in having my children take Vital. With the chlorophyll blend that's in there mixed with those adaptogens, I really feel like it helps their health overall, and it also helps their mood. So that is another thing that my kids, we try to have them do daily, is the Vital. And sometimes an extra Adaptable or two, just depending on it. And my kids right now range from from age 11 to 22. So all of my children benefit from the Adaptable and the Vital daily. So I hope this helps someone out there that's struggling with something health-wise, and just know that whenever we give our bodies what it needs, it has a way of taking care of itself. And I'm so grateful that I was introduced to the many different adaptogens that Soul Naturals uses.
And I love this testimony from Corinne because of how it is talking about shingles, and shingles can be expressed or have a tendency to be expressed more. One of the things that allows it to show itself is whenever we have.
Apple sauce and cottage cheese. It's underrated.
And can we make certain that everyone is muted in the background there? I know we've got some that are not. So that, let's see here. Tammy, can you get muted, please? There we go. Great. Anyhow, so let me shift here. Anyhow, so shingles will express itself more whenever we have stress. So let me see if we can't do this here. So Tammy is not showing sound, but we can hear her right now. So anyhow, we will move forwards here.
Well,
so stress is more than what people think, but I want to look at some of the definitions of stress. Stress, by definition, can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological. Let me see if I can mute.
We can have
a second here. There we go. That way I don't get off track either. So stress can be defined as any type of change that causes physical, emotional, or psychological strain. Or even just like that, even though it was just distracting, made it harder for me to focus. Think of that, what stress does to the body. It helps or keeps the body from being able to do its job as focused and get things accomplished as easily as it normally would. But stress also is your response to anything that requires attention or action, just like right then. And that actually was a perfect example, the way that showed up. It caused me to have to stop and deal with to be able to move on and move forward. So stress is not always what we think. Everybody does experience stress to some degree. That's just how it rolls. You do not get through life without experiencing stress. It is how we respond to stress that makes the difference. And that's where adaptogens come into play. We can come in and we can do all the prayer, all the deep breathing, all the time outs, all the get a quiet space, everything you want. But that does not always help you to have all the tools you need to actually be able to respond to stress in a healthy way. So let's talk about the adrenal glands. If you reach to your back to back where your kidneys are, you'll see the adrenal glands sit on top of the kidneys. Often people think their lower back pain is kidney pain, but in reality, it is often their adrenal glands, and they just can't tell the difference. Let's also remember that adrenal glands are designed, and people are familiar with the fight or flight reaction. So, we didn't used to have as many stressors in society as we do now. Therefore, the adrenal glands, when in this case, we've got whatever this type of cat here jumps out from behind the tree to chase the caveman, the adrenal glands kick in, we've got the adrenaline rush, and you can get to safety. However, with so many different types of stress now, the cell phone can go off and cause stress. The child can just need help in the other room, can cause the stress. The getting prepared for a big event in life can cause stress. And the adrenals cannot tell the difference in our stress, whether it's a good stress, like the birth of a new grandchild, or a what we call a bad stress, maybe a traumatic loss. Stress is stress to the body, and it cannot tell the difference. So what becomes important is that we support this area of the body, because as we've said, stress is not going to go away. Another thing I want to point out, there is an area on the bottom of your foot where the adrenals reflex point is, and there can be soreness for a lot of people in this area as well. So something to consider too, for those that are using like the Calm oil from Soul Naturals, or even Balance, whichever one you respond to, using some on that point on the bottom of the foot can also help you with stress. And a lot of you know how much I like addressing the health of the body through the feet. So keep that in mind. Now let's look at chronic stress. Chronic meaning long-term, ongoing, basically without interruption. So it's been going on for a long time. When you have chronic stress, there's a couple different things that can happen. Well, there's quite a few, but I've pulled a couple of items here. Memory loss. We see that people get impacted in their ability to think. We also can see chronic stress can cause weight gain. We see it interrupts sleep. And of course, when you cannot sleep and wake up restored, having a restorative sleep, then that keeps that cycle going and you get more exhausted. Anxiety can be the result of chronic stress, along with depression and even digestive issues. And like I said, this is just a few of these items, but the longer we're dealing with stress or running on, in this case with this gauge, a hot engine like that, without ever getting any breaks, it's like you get stuck in that mode and the body doesn't even know how to shift. And this is one reason that my initial goal with most people is to break that stress cycle, because once we can do that, it'll allow the body to start to heal. But I also want you to know what else stress can look like. It can look like injuries. Injuries can be very stressful to the system. Recovering from surgery is stressful on the body. The body's having to work to heal and kick into regrowth patterns. Pregnancy, even though it's an exciting time, it's also, even the perfect ideal pregnancy can be stressful to the body, because the body's growing another human. It's making certain it has all the nutrients, yet your body's still making certain that it functions ideally as well. Too much or too little exercise can be stressful for the body as well. In fact, it's not uncommon for me when someone presents to me with extreme stress issues that, and maybe they've been working out harder and harder and harder to the point I've had people have come to me, been working out several hours a day, that one of the first things we do is we scale back the amount of exercise they're doing because they're putting their body into another type of overwhelm. So as you know, even like what it says biblically, moderation is better. Interrupted sleep routine. For instance, think about this like when we have a new young infant or a sick child, or even when we don't feel well, then and our sleep gets interrupted, that causes stress. Being ill or sick, especially when it's taking a little bit longer and a person is used to bouncing back very quickly, and maybe it's taking 4 or 5 days instead, or a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks, that is stressful. Travel can be stressful. And I don't even mean in this day and age with what people have been dealing with. Just think about changing different time zones or different climates or different altitudes. That is stressful. Sugar is very stressful on the body, and it does kick those adrenals and can cause, and there's an addiction that can happen there. It's highly addictive, and it flips the body to more of an acidic background too. Caffeine is very stressful to the body and hits those adrenals pretty hard as well. When you have nutrient deficient foods, that's hard on the body because the body's trying to live optimally without having all the parts or pieces and all the nutrition to do that. We also get stressed whenever someone's been on prescription or non-prescription drugs. Many people are aware, but once you've been on a prescription drug, we'll use that as an example, within 6 months to 2 years after being on that drug, then there is a deficiencies that are created, which will cause new symptoms, which usually results in the addition of another drug that they get put on because of the result of that. But again, that's more stresses on the system. And then another one too, being dehydrated. When we don't get enough water, then the whole system gets bogged down everywhere. And all of that can cause stress on the body. Another place that people are not aware of, which stress can often show up before they're aware, is on the face. For instance, dark circles or bags under your eyes. And if you notice from this face chart, in that area is also the kidney. Think about the kidney and the proximity to the adrenal glands. And then, here we go. Wrinkles appearing in between the eyes, forehead, around the mouth, under the eyes. That can also be caused because stress depletes the body of B vitamins and C vitamins. Both of those can show up in your skin and show up as wrinkles. It also can show up as itching and hives when we get enough stress. The inflammation, the body's trying to move things. Remember, inflammation is the body's trying to protect you from something or move something out of the way. It's a reaction to something. Teeth grinding can happen. So again, showing up in the face and the jawline. Hair loss, adult acne. That's where it's also really beneficial to pay attention when you look at some of these face maps and notice, where is the acne showing up? Let's say, for instance, it's showing up in the heart area there at the tip of the nose. Then maybe making certain that you're doing some extra support for the heart, maybe using the Comfort Compass blend over the heart or something to also support that, because it's giving an indicator to you what area is being overwhelmed. And then finally, the skin does get a very dull, dry appearance after chronic stress because of how it impacts the cortisol, which causes the estrogen levels to get lower. This then can end up with that dull and dry appearance in the skin. This is one of the things we're seeing changes on with our Soul Royal formula because of how the plants we've got in there are also addressing cortisol, helping to get that more in line. We've got the C vitamins, the B vitamins. It's helping to balance out your hormones. And then all of a sudden we start to see this radiance start to come back. So we're talking about adaptogens and why they make a difference in stress. Why are adaptogens so important? Well, adaptogens are named that adaptogen, as in they adapt, because they can help a body or an organism to adjust very quickly to what's happening in life. Also helps is known to enhance the lifespan of all your populations. Whether or not you're naturally weak, or you're that strong person, or that person that's got genetics that say you're going to live a long time, adaptogens are going to support. It adjusts for what you have going on and helps the body be supported where it needs to be supported. And in fact, when you combine several adaptogens, like our two products that have the most adaptogens in them are the adaptable and the vital, the more adaptogens you've got combined, the more, well, not the more, but combining several gets you more benefits because of the synergistic result. They also will help to decrease or reduce your signs of having chronic stress, just like we were talking about. This is why I love adaptogens so much. And then finally, your 4 R's of adaptogens. It helps the body to be able to recognize what it needs to do. It helps it to respond, recover, and then get restored and regenerate. And many of you know that 35 years ago, roughly, I had extreme, complete adrenal exhaustion. It took me over a year just to get functional. And then many, many, many years of taking lots of supplements until we got the Soul products. And then all of a sudden it was just like it hurtled me rapidly all the way to recovery. And I've never looked back. So the last 10 years that I've had the Soul products and these adaptogenic formulas have been game changers, so much so that I've had several people over the years that have felt that I ended up looking younger. Well, of course, we've reduced how stress is impacting me. And that they did not, they've noticed that I'm not getting sick. So all that results of using adaptogens. So Rhodiola happens to be one of the adaptogens. As we know, there's adaptogens in all our formulas. Rhodiola is one of the ones that is in the vital and the adaptable. And we see it doing things with countering like the different stressors we're talking about. So it's supporting the mental and physical performance. It's protecting the heart. It's helping a person be able to deal with colds and flu. It challenges stress and fatigue. It helps you have more endurance. And remember, stress comes in lots of different forms. So think of endurance, whether it's endurance to when I was raising 6 kids or would have all my grandchildren together, then endurance to go the length of time with all that without crashing, or the endurance required for an athlete to train. Again, the body cannot tell the difference in the stress. And here it shows about supporting adrenals and then blood pressure. Well, if you help the body to not get so 911 type response with when you're dealing with stress, then that's going to help the blood pressure in the long run as well. Another great testimony here talking about anxiety and stress level decreased. They're just not, even though they haven't gotten more of these products in particular, is what they're using in the testimony, they also lost about 10 pounds when their stress level drops. And we see that over and over again. We get that cortisol level back to where it needs to be, then we will see inflammation go down because of that cortisol. The body is holding on to inflammation to protect itself, but when we are taking it out of that fight or flight response that is staying in long term or can stay in with stress, then we can see that change in the health. They also saw impact on their allergies and sinuses as well. And then another adaptogen happens to be in the Renew. Marl root is really good for that. And talking about how it, again, you're going to see some similarities, how it protects the brain, works with anxiety and stress. And I actually really love this is a really pretty root. It's got all types of properties that are going to help the body to lower that load of stress, whether it's on the immune system, the vascular system. I've combined this with Vital and use those together during the day for people that have adrenal issues like I have. That helps those adrenals to begin, in my opinion, to heal and bounce back much faster. We also see other benefits that come with this. And when adaptogens go where it's needed to help support the body. And yes, some adaptogens will have affinities to different areas of the body in particular. For instance, Marl root is really great and was named after the Marl deer because it would go out and dig it up and and eat it after it gave birth. But it's so much bigger than that. But if we look at that picture about what's involved with giving birth, having a baby, and it is exhausting. And if that can help restore a body after that, what else does it have the capability to do? And here's another great testimony. And this is from Denise Norbert, talking about a client that she had come in who was having anxiety, depression, difficulty sleeping, a lot of the typical signs that we see. And then when she followed up with her in the very next day or within 24 hours, she was saying that she had slept like a baby and said she was, as an added benefit, was finding her cigarettes were tasting disgusting. Not bad for, as she says, less than 24 hours. And that's another thing. I find that these two formulas are outstanding at helping people break addictive patterns without even really having to work so hard, because it's addressing the stress level. So now I'm going to turn this over to Greg Halliday, and I'd asked him to talk about why it was so important that the company, and what it's known for, is that it has adaptogens in every single product. So let me share this with Greg. And do you need
You can
me
leave it
to...
on, Valerie.
Okay.
This slide's perfect. And hello, everybody. It's great to be here with you tonight. I always love to sit and think while Valerie teaches, because there's so much education there. And so a couple things that came to mind. I was listening. This one might have been about 3 weeks ago to one of our soul leaders was teaching, and someone was sharing a testimonial who had been on a really balanced program. So they were probably taking 5 or 6 products. I think they were taking all of the signature drinks in this particular case, and then a couple of the capsules. And something caught my attention, because Valerie, a few slides back, she said something really interesting, and I wanted to point that out because it is the reason the adaptogens are in every product. She said, and I'm paraphrasing the way I learned that principle, is that if the body can normalize its stress response, it begins to heal, where maybe it's still, in some situations, it's not healing, it's just waiting because it can't. So in some cases, it just will begin now. Or if it is healing a little and we're doing some things and we're taking some products that have higher level nutrition and the body can use them to heal, it, with the stress level managed because of adaptogens, it's more effective in healing, and we see a greater step forward. That can apply to so many different situations. You can apply that principle generally. It doesn't really even matter what the physical or the imbalance is, the health imbalance. I love using that term because really balance, does put us in a place where health improves. And imbalance, it's not going to stay the same. It's not going to improve. It probably will get a little worse if we stay in a situation of imbalance and don't rebalance ourselves. So that was the first thing that I wanted to share, is that because adaptogens are so amazing at the stress response, and that's why they get their classification, they're quite incredible. They're so multifaceted that they help in a variety of ways. And we can sometimes just take one adaptogen with some other things in a formula, or even by itself. And other times we can combine several adaptogens, as we've done in a couple of formulas, or even 5 or 6, and see an even greater result because they work differently. And so I think those 2 reasons, number one, that the body needs to manage stress response in order to heal. In other words, I like to say it in a simpler way. If we give the body a chance and some time, we can heal. A chance means it has to have a resting state. If there's not some degree of resting state, nothing can heal, because that's when the body stimulates, the nervous system stimulates regeneration and renewal and rebalancing. At least a lot of what we've learned points to that. So I was mentioning a class I was listening to a few weeks ago on this very point, and the person that was talking about how they were feeling better, and they noticed in the first few hours, definitely the first day, that their mood improved, like lot less anxiety, just didn't feel the stress so much. Their situation wasn't so disconcerting to them. So like, where you just sort of feel off balance, off center. Um, and this leader jumped in at that point and said, yeah, usually with soul products, the first thing you're going to feel is your mood change. Then you'll see the physical changes. And I thought, oh, okay, I love that. That's exactly what Valerie just taught tonight. And it's the reason adaptogens are in there. We can more quickly start to feel a change in mood and emotion, even while we have other physical issues that need time. Depending on how long we've had them and how big they are, time's going to be different for all of us. But we can move things quite quickly in terms of how our body sees stress. The oils can help in that. The drinks, because you drink them down, quicker digestion. They get into the system. That's why we designed the 4 signature drinks that way. So adaptogens are in every product because we hope people will believe that they can, with the right nutrition, see change. And if they can feel change sooner, then maybe they'll stay with it. Because one thing we've learned over the years, I've learned listening to people like Valerie and watching the results of people she's helped, is that if someone will stick with it long enough, most things can be drastically helped. Sometimes you get tough things that are a little harder, and we look for answers with those. But if I can improve 8 of my 10 things drastically, I'm going to feel a ton better, even though I'm still trying to figure out this pesky one. My life changes in a significant way when I can improve several things. That is why we have adaptogens. They do change how we see stress, and they change how severely our body reacts to it. I think that's the chart on this page. Our reactions don't have to be as severe. Stress response can be more in the normal energy flow of the body when we have adaptogens. And that's what we've seen. So our goal in the company, honestly, is to look at supply and make sure we have quality adaptogens that are concentrated but complete and not isolated, not having components isolated out of them. You have to be careful. A lot of studies that are done are from isolated components. Those lose their adaptogenic property then, and they just become like a particular drug to calm or to stimulate. But the adaptogenic property is, to me, the real jewel in the nutrition because of this conversation. So anyway, Valerie, back to you. Those are my thoughts on that.
Perfect. Thank you. So one of the things that I run into with people when I start sharing about what adaptogens have done for me or what I've moved through, and they're like, oh, well, my stress isn't as bad as what you've dealt with. And they start comparing. So here I've got this woman that feels overwhelmed enough she wants to pull her hair out. And she's like, well, I don't have as much stress as what a fireman goes through and what he deals with, what a mother with young children might deal with a teenager's feeling. It doesn't matter. What matters is how your body's responding for it. And if it feels stressful to you, that's good enough. You don't have to gauge or compare. This is not a contest to say that you can't take an adaptogen until you get up to this level. That's not the way it is. Each of our bodies are individuals, and I guarantee that each of us respond differently to stress, and that adaptogens benefit regardless. Let's hear from Allison.
Hey y'all, Allison here. I am so excited to talk to you guys about my feelings on the constant use of adaptogenic herbs. First and foremost, health-wise, I've always been a pretty healthy individual. I was an athlete all through school, through college, and afterward I got into a lot of yoga and other athletic things. So in terms of my physical health, I really haven't truly struggled a lot with many intense things, if we will. However, I have the typical aches and pains, of course, from being an athlete. I have a lot of, I'm in my 30s, so coming up with a lot of like past childhood traumas and things, on basic things that come up that you start to question how they're manifesting, and what's showing up in your life. So my experience with the herbs are definitely much more based on how they've affected me spiritually, mentally, and emotionally, and as a result physically, of course. But I can tell you right now, adaptogenic herbs have given me so much life back, so much faith in my own system's healing, so much belief that I can do so much more for myself, that I don't always have to ask a doctor or a professional herbalist or naturopath. That I do have the intuition within me to be able to recognize how to heal myself. And I believe it now. And it's because through practice, trial and error with the herbs, I have found what helps me. And also the beauty of recognizing how that shifts and changes, ebbs and flows. There are some times when vertizymes are the thing that I live and die for, and I need 2 bottles in every compartment of every space I have, just to make sure that I, have that support. And there are other times when I need much less of that and much more of, some Soul Complete or just some, contentment roll on. But I'm telling you right now, had it not been for the education through Soul with Val and Greg and the whole team and all of you, and just practicing, just trusting, like they said, just try it out. The worst case scenario, you try something that, for example, Excel. If I take even a quarter of a packet of that stuff, I have so much energy, or Power Chi, if I take some, have so much energy, I'm miserable because I already have high energy. And so it's, experimenting. But the good news is it wears off in a little while and you just keep practicing. So if I could ever encourage anyone to stick with the herbal remedies, which I do encourage everyone around me to do, is that it might take some time with certain things, but they're going to support you in every area of your life. Valerie always says that, and it's the truest thing, I think, of all. The spiritual, mental, emotional things are hard to see, and so we don't think about them. We don't see them existing. We want instant gratification, and the herbs have helped me to find that intuition in my gut to believe that it doesn't have to be instant gratification, but that if I listen to myself and I sit in that peace and calm, then I'm going to find what I need. And for that, I will be eternally grateful. So thanks, y'all. Enjoy your night.
I love this with Allison because she did not come to me with all these, intense, non-functional, what a typical person would think that they needed to come see an herbalist for. Yet she still is getting amazing results from these adaptogenic formulas because the adaptogens are adapting to what her specific individual needs are and helping her to have a higher quality of life. So, to kind of sum this up, because there are adaptogens in every single product, they, no matter what, are going to help address mood. They're going to help address physically. They're going to help address how we respond to stress. This is why people notice such a difference. Yes, we focus on a couple that are really known to address stress, but in all honesty, all the Soul Natural products will do that. So if in doubt, reach out to your specialist or mentor and get some direction, or use the product selector and look at the first couple ones that pop up on there and maybe add those into your program. So our quote we're going to end with is, "You can't stop the waves, but you can learn to surf." And to me, I kind of equate that to, we are not going to stop stress from happening, but we can use adaptogens and learn how to navigate stress to where it does not have as much impact on our health. And I hope you will join us next week. Our topic will be on sleep. And these are every Monday at 6:30 Central Time. And again, if you'd like to get those text notifications, you can text the word "learn" to the number on the screen, 1-866-256-1970. And you will get a notification about 15 minutes before we start. But I hope everyone will join us next week. And with